Hi everyone. In this presentation, we are going to look at why some clients seem really motivated, but others disengage on us. So a lot of times clients come in for a variety of reasons and they give us a lot of excuses. And we have to look at those excuses and go, okay, but what's the real reason? What is really behind this? And getting through those excuses can help lead us to a successful client relationship. Even better, addressing those excuses and bringing them up before they occur can help us not have to address them at all. So, agenda for this presentation and the following two presentations. This one's going to look at goal setting, but after that, we're going to have two additional presentations that look at the trans-theoretical model or stages of change model and how to work with difficult clients. These are meant to be practical applications for you in the field. So this isn't so much what you're being quizzed on a test, but how are you going to use this material outside of the classroom? I think sometimes a lot of clients come into a fitness professional and they say, oh, aren't we just going to do a workout? Or I couldn't make it today, so I sent my husband today and just go work out with him. And as a fitness professional, we shake our heads and we walk away and we go, oh my gosh, I haven't really built the value of lifestyle change and goal setting and all of these things with my client. So we always look at it reflectively and say, oh, I should have done something differently in that case. And we're going to look at what that is in this lecture and then the following two lectures. So this really does start with the fundamentals of SMART goal setting. There's a variety of acronyms out there. We can add a couple A's, we can add a couple R's, we can add a couple T's, but the basics does come down to specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-oriented. If you are missing one of those, you will discover that the goal doesn't get accomplished as it was planned, and you might not meet the client's expectations. And in the fitness profession, we really do want to understand those clients' expectations. We want to know why they came to us, and we want to know if we're fulfilling them, because that will lead to successful long-term relationships and clients that will rave about your service and they go on to talk to others about it and recommend you. So if I look at specific goals, we can contrast two goals here. One is I want to feel better. And the other one is I want to have enough energy to play for an hour with my kids after work. And if a client comes in and says, I want to feel better, you need to know, well, what does that mean to you? Because to me, I might have a different definition of feel better. I might have a different gauge of what that is. I had a man the other day, I was working on his ankle, and his gauge of whether his ankle feels better wasn't the measures I was taking, it was whether he could use his elliptical trainer or not. He didn't really care if his ankle was fully rehabilitated from an injury. What he cared about was could he use his elliptical trainer for 15 to 20 minutes a day, and once he could do that, he was ready to be done with his rehabilitation of his ankle. So it's really important that we understand the client's specificity and point of view as to what they are looking for and why they are looking for it. Next, we look at measurable. This is where we get into all of the assessments you have been learning. And I left that double click to edit on there because your list should be longer than this. So for example, I have a friend that works in a coffee shop. She goes, my resting heart rate's 120. And I go, oh my gosh, your resting heart rate's 120. Is there anything wrong? She goes, oh no, that's my normal resting heart rate. And I go, well, is that good? Is that bad? I don't really know. That's pretty high. It's tachycardia. And one of her doctor's goals for her was to get her resting heart rate down. But when I started looking at her nutrition, she was consuming caffeine pills in mass quantities during the day to get through the day and not really eating food. And I was like, oh, there's something not right here. And I started asking her about, okay, how are you measuring what you want to achieve here? So if we look at that, we have resting measures like resting heart rate, blood pressure, body composition. You have a million ways to measure that. We can look at a person's posture. I had a man that came in the other day, and really the only thing he wanted to improve was his posture. He goes, I saw myself in my daughter's wedding party, and my head was way far forward, and I can't get it back. And that upset him. He really wanted to come in and work on posture because he saw that picture. We also have a bunch of movement assessments that tell us about muscle imbalances, whether you're FMS trained or you pursue a certification in that, or Reebok, which we cover in our courses. or NASM. There's all kinds of different movement batteries out there that tell you about assessments, and we look at some of them in the HS 245 class. Then we have endurance, strength, and power, which are various muscle tests. So endurance, an example is I could work on my push-up test. Strength, I could do a 1 rep max, 10 rep max. Power, I could do some med ball throws. I could have a sport-specific battery. I could look at cardiovascular testing. So I could look at how's my aerobic base changing? How's my anaerobic threshold changing? How are my cardiovascular zones changing? How does my heart rate change when I do this exercise? And there is a whole list more. I'm hoping you're thinking of about 50 other things that you could measure. But what you want to do is you want to establish a benchmark so the client can see progress. A lot of times clients might have some pretty big goals or pretty small goals, and they don't give themselves credit for the small baby steps. And you need to point them out. You need to go, hey, look, last week we didn't even go jumping because your knee hurt, and this week your knee is fine, and we're jumping for the first time. They're like, oh yeah, I didn't realize that. So you gotta have something to measure so you can show them how well they are doing. Or if they're not doing well, you know that you need to go back and reassess and figure out, okay, what do I need to change as the provider here to make us move towards our goals? Then we look at achievable. So we have this little runner here, and she goes, hey, I want to run a marathon. And for some people, that's an achievable goal. But you have to think about it in the context of, is it realistic? Because this little runner here has a story, and she has no ACL. So I want to run a marathon, but I have no ACL. Next question for me would be, what did your doctor say about that? Is that realistic? Is that achievable for you? So a lot of times clients come to us looking for weight loss or sports performance. Those are our most typical clients. So our weight loss clients, they might say, oh, I really want to lose 30 pounds by tomorrow, by next week. A lot of clients don't understand the proper time frames, and we'll get into that in a moment. And sometimes they don't understand in the context of that human being, what else do they need to consider? So if they want to lose 30 pounds, and let's say their life is super busy, they don't get enough sleep, they don't get enough water, we're looking at a complete lifestyle overhaul. That is really different than the client that comes in and they've already met with a dietitian, they've changed their diet, and now they just want to add exercise to increase their muscle and increase their resting metabolic rate. So we need to look at realistic and achievable within the context of the client. And finally, we'll look at time-oriented. And you'll see a bunch of words up here. So first of all, is it a realistic time? If you have a client that wants to lose more than 2.5 pounds a week, we really need to have a dietitian involved on that, because normally on a typical nutrition coaching change, we can't achieve that safely, especially because we're not allowed to prescribe low-calorie diets, and there's a lot of reasons why. Next, time-oriented. We need to know why the client wants this. Is it by your reunion? Is it by summer? What is the driving force that's putting a time on this? And if we don't have a time on this, well then let's get out the planner and map out, if I commit to losing 2 pounds a week, this is where I'm going to be, and this is when I can expect to achieve it. We have to look at what their obstacles are. I mentioned before, if you're not getting enough sleep, you're not going to achieve a sports performance goal or a weight loss goal fully. If they're not getting enough hydration, that fuels our body, that releases the toxins. Maybe they have obstacles about injuries. So that's what goes back to our Part Q and our health history. And we need to consider, okay, what do I need to change based off this context? What are the first baby steps that I need to do before I will see that scale budge? What are the first baby steps that I need to do before I can run 400 meters? And then finally, let's put it in the planner, and let's hold each other accountable in a client coaching relationship here. And if it's not on track, let's figure out why. A lot of times I give my clients self-grading sheets. We agree to 1 or 2 behaviors, and they write down those behaviors, and they have to grade themselves each week on, were you accountable to this? And if they weren't accountable to this, we perhaps need to pick a different goal, or I can ask the client if they want to try it again. So with that, we're going to reach the end of part 1 here, and we're going to have a couple more lectures on trans-theoretical model or stages of change. which is a great structure to build your coaching off of and know, okay, do I hand this person a pamphlet? Do I talk to them about this? Am I ready to go? Can I assume that they're ready to go? So we'll get into that in our next lecture. And then in our final lecture, we'll look at some difficult and challenging client cases. Thank you.